Leadership and management styles, the art and science of developing people and organizations. Leadership could be categorized into 5 major streams, each having its own distinct approach on how leadership is applied. These 5 major streams to leadership are as follows: the trait approach, the behavioral approach, the contingency or situational approach, leadership and followership approach, and the dispersed leadership approach. Trait approach to leadership. The trait approach to leadership assumes that there are critical traits or characteristics that make up effective leaders. Although this list may not be as exhaustive, some of the main traits are as follows in that list: adaptable to situations, alert to social environment, ambitious and achievement-oriented, assertive, cooperative, decisive, dependable, dominant, energetic, persistent, self-confident, tolerant of stress, willing to assume responsibility. In addition, leaders are also described to have the following skill set: clever, conceptually skilled, creative, diplomatic and tactful, fluent in speaking, knowledgeable about group tasks, organized, persuasive, socially skilled. The behavioral approach is another perspective to leadership, which is further categorized into the McGregor's theory X and Y, managers, and according to the classification provided by the Black-Merton managerial grid. McGregor's theory X and Y assumed that the leadership style that is exercised by a manager is dependent on his beliefs about human nature, or what drives or motivates people to work. One theory, Theory X, posits that managers believe that there is an inherent dislike for people to work. They even try to avoid working if it is at all possible. So, in order to achieve organizational goals, the manager utilizes coercion, control, direction, and threats in the way he leads them. Another theory, Theory Y, posits that people actually seek not only for work, but for the associated sense of responsibility that such a commitment has. In a sense, they are self-motivated to direct themselves toward the achievement of organizational goals while exerting restraint, self-control, to avoid the temptation of doing otherwise. Another behavioral approach to leadership is the Black-Merton managerial grid. It argues that the most effective approach to leadership is one where there is a high regard for both the employees and the output or production level of the organization. Here, the accomplishment of the organization in general is derived from the direct relationship of concerned leader or manager and the commitment of the latter to produce acceptable outputs because of the former's regard. At such juncture, the operation of the organization is characteristic of an interdependent or team effort. The third approach to leadership is called the contingency or situational school, which is further categorized into 4, namely Fiedler's contingency model, the Herschel-Blanchard model of leadership, Tannenbaum and Schmidt's leadership continuum, and Adair's action-centered leadership model. One contingency or situational approach to leadership is Fiedler's contingency model. This approach argues that there is no particular manner to lead. On the other hand, various leadership styles will be created as a result of a situation that requires such type of approach. These situational variables are leader-member relations, or how well managers and their subordinates get along, task structure, complexity of the task to accomplish it, and position power, how much authority the organization has delegated upon the manager to accomplish the task and to direct, reward, or punish employees for not being able to deliver. The second contingency or situational approach to leadership is the Hershey-Blanchard model of leadership. This approach posits that the leadership style of the manager is determined by the readiness or development level of the subordinates. There are 4 leadership styles in this particular approach, namely directing, coaching, supporting, and delegating. In the directing leadership style, the manager provides clear and specific instructions to subordinates. This approach is best suited for subordinates who have a low follower readiness level. In the coaching leadership style, the manager encourages a two-way communication line with the subordinates while building their confidence and motivation level to an optimal point. This approach is best suited for subordinates with a moderate follower readiness level. In the supporting leadership style, the manager and subordinates share the responsibility for decision-making. In addition, the manager leads with a non-directive approach. A subordinate with a moderate follower readiness level is suited for this particular approach. Lastly, in the delegating leadership style, the manager is able to authorize subordinates a particular task because of their competence, motivation, and sense of responsibility. This approach is best suited for organizations with subordinates with a high follower readiness level. The manager's leadership style is classified as either being autocratic or democratic and consultative or persuasive. In an autocratic or telling style, the manager makes decisions and would expect subordinates to carry them out blindly. In a democratic or joining style, on the other hand, the manager would open up matters of the organization to subordinates and solicit their opinion and encourage discussion about it, moderating rather than directing, as the collective decision emerges. In a persuasive or selling style, the manager makes the decision for the organization without any consensus from subordinates. The manager assumes that they will be motivated if persuaded that the decision made is good and the right one. Conversely, in a consultative or consulting style, the manager confers and involves subordinates in the process before making decisions, although the responsibility borne out of it is still the former's. The last contingency or situational approach to leadership is Adair's action-centered leadership model. In this leadership style, the manager is concentrated on accomplishing the job by structuring the task structuring, or by defining, planning, allocating resources, and adjusting the plan via performance feedback. Supporting, attending to their concerns and developing them, and reviewing, recognizing and praising those assigned to it, and coordinating, which means ensuring individual members' coordination and delegating leadership, and finally cultivating, team building and developing the team until the accomplishment of the task. Another approach to leadership is the framework of leaders and followers, which is composed of 4 distinct styles. The servant leadership style, following part of the leadership, team leadership, and transactional and transformational leadership. Under the servant leadership style, it is posited that the managers who are duty-bound to serve subordinates. In addition, the desire to serve takes primacy over the desire to lead. In other words, it is the interests of others are given highest priority. Moreover, although it is basic notion that managers take point in organizations, there are also instances where it is the subordinates who do. Under the following part of leading, individual, team, and organizational performance determine when a manager ought to give way in leading. In other words, if the individual performance of the subordinates with their experience, knowledge, and skill. The purpose and/or goals and performance of both teams in the organization and the organization itself requires it. The manager's best judgment will have to heed these three considerations. In an organization setup, the team leadership style has another approach to leadership. Here, the work groups in an organization would be as an effectual unit should its manager lead by functioning within the boundaries of other team members' roles, gives value to the diversity in the unit, where the manager is not threatened by prospective unit members who have talents, is able to provide and encourage the growth of team members, and acts on the very purpose for which the team is forged as a team. Under the transactional and transformational leadership style, managers approach subordinates by raising their level of motivation and morality. Here, leading is characterized by transcending corporeal persuasions toward the service of higher ethics, values, and principles. As such, re-engineering in the organization includes job redesign that makes it challenging, but one through which inspiration and meaning is derived. The last approach to leadership is dispersed leadership, which is also known as an informal or emergent leadership style. In this approach that posits that individuals from anywhere in the organization could influence others, even management, and the organization itself. Hence, the general functioning of the organization is influenced from anywhere and by anyone, even from the echelon of the rank and file.